Hello and welcome to another episode of Keeping It Real, the largest podcast made by real estate agents and also for real estate agents. My name is DJ Paris. I'm your guide and a host through the show. And today, once again, is our monthly series titled Learn with a Lender with Joel Schaub from Guaranteed Rate. Now, Joel is the vice president of lending at Guaranteed Rate. He's been doing loans at a high level since 2003, and he's got to that level because of what he does specifically for agents, which is he gives back part of his commission to the buyer on every transaction. Now, last year alone, Joel gave back just under $300,000 in closing costs to buyers who worked with him. And that actually put Joel's volume in the top 0.1% of all lenders nationwide. Out of 400,000 loan officers in the United States, Joel is ranked number 137. Now, last year, he closed 535 transactions, his highest amount ever, for 195 million in loans. This year, he smashed that record. So this is actually his biggest year ever, and it's not over yet, but he's already done here in December. 590 transactions, last year 535, this year 590 for $238 million in loans. Now, if you're looking for a loan officer, we cannot more highly recommend Joel. He's the very best we've ever worked with. Joel can be reached at his email, which is Joel, Joel, at rate.com. Again, Joel at rate.com, or shoot him a text message or call him at his phone number, which is 773-654-2049. Let's say hello once again to the biggest Cubs fan I know, Joel Schaub. Welcome.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on. And when I hear those accolades and those numbers, none of it matters. I'm so happy to be here each and every month to just give back. These are some of the best times when you and I get together.
It is a lot of fun. And I know just how busy you are and the fact that you can find time to talk to me when you're doing more than one closing a day on average. And if you do business days, it's probably more like two closings at least on average a day. So we know how busy you and your team are. So thank you for taking a few minutes to chat with us. So I wanted to ask before we sort of got started, and again, it's always funny to watch the news because, you know, if all you did is read the news, you'd think, wow, everything's going to pot, or everything's going in the wrong direction, because that's what people are interested in reading. So negative stuff sells. And I started seeing in the last couple of weeks, like, mortgage rates are starting to climb, time to freak out and time to get scared. And just wanted to get your take on a lot of those news stories that agents and maybe even their clients might be seeing.
I'm glad you asked that right out of the gate, DJ, because when rates are going up, it's just important to put it into perspective, right?
Yeah.
When we hear rates have spiked, 10-year treasury yields are up over 6 months, where do we actually stand in terms of long-term interest rates, and what does it truly mean for the buyer? Okay. And so, yes, on average, rates right now are north of 3%, but they're in the low threes. And there are definitely options to get rates below 3%. But just think about what we're talking about here for a second. We just said rates are up to just over 3%. It's a great time to be in the business, is what we're getting at, right?
Yeah, it's a great time for rates to go up, quite honestly. If they're going to go up, let's do it in an environment where they were at historic lows. And perspective. Because when my parents got their first loan, they got lucky because they were able to grab a loan that someone else, or rather, I'm sorry, they were able to get a loan at a low price, or low rate. But other people were getting double digit. This is in like the late 70s, early 80s. Inflation was out of control. It was like 12%. And now we're at 3%.
Yeah, the loans today are not assumable, right? So when parents were able to get that property, it was a real bargain, because somebody that had the mortgage before went to a bank, and that bank either made a mistake.
Yeah, they made a mistake.
Loan. Yeah. So banks don't make mistakes these days. They learned from 2008 and 2009, that old mistake. But guys, there's an opportunity right now when rates are going up. And I want to talk about the two things that I would be doing if I were an agent in this market where rates are going up. It means that buyers are seeing it on social media, the news, etc. And it's about having an honest conversation with the buyers that are already pre-approved if they're right at the edge of their limits. Okay. And what I mean by that, DJ, is everybody thinks because I am closing 2 or 3 transactions every single day right? That I must work with $1 million buyers left and right. That's just not the case. A good majority are just first-time buyers or move-up buyers that need advice, need guidance. Okay.
Yeah.
And these are people buying ranges anywhere from $150,000 and up. And a lot of times they aren't big time transactions. The big thing here is that buyers are usually limited to how much they can afford. And if rates do go up, now instead of being able to go out and buy that $300,000 home, they might have to go and find a home that's only $265,000. So as an agent, it's nice to actually educate your clients right now that it is the time. If you can get out and find a property before rates really do go up in the next year or two, to get out and buy a property.
I think that's really, really important because we see, I also just think the average consumer doesn't really know when rates are, when they say, oh, rates are going up, they're not able to translate that easily into real dollars unless they do an online calculation of sorts. And so that's where I think you're right. An agent or any loan officers who might be listening, you can provide a lot of value by, resetting that expectation and understanding of what the news actually is. And gives you a great reason to call your clients and say, hey, just so you know, you might have seen some new stuff, I don't want you to freak out, but let's talk about your next move and what are you and we also know that pricing for homes has obviously gone up, and it's starting to sort of settle I guess, but still great time to have a conversation and just let people know here's where we're at, and if it's time to start looking, it's always a good time.
Guys, here's the point. If a borrower is right now able to go up to 300,000 because rates are about 3%, that exact same borrower might only be able to afford 250 or 265 in a year or two when rates are at 4.5%. So it doesn't seem like a major difference from low threes to 4.5%, but it really is. It lowers their purchasing power by quite a bit. And for those borrowers that are first time or on a fixed income, every dollar counts, and making sure that they lock in the historically low rates is one of your big keys about teaching and educating the clients that you're working with.
Yeah, it's a great time to reach out and wish somebody a happy December holidays if they celebrate those holidays for your clients. That's another great reason to pick up the phone and say hi before the end of the year or wish them happy new year. And oh, by the way, what are the plans next year? And are you thinking about upgrading or maybe moving from renting to buying or investing even in another property? I would love to talk, because this is one thing that I think you do so incredibly well, maybe certainly better than any other loan officer I've ever met, but maybe even better than just about anyone I've ever met in any industry, which is your generosity. And I know this is going to sound like I'm just giving you platitudes and trying to
keep going
with compliments,
yeah.
but it is actually, I think, a learning point for our agents, or for our listeners rather, who most of them are agents, to talk about what you do for the people in your sphere of influence, which I think could be a similar thing can be done for all of our listeners as well. But can you talk a little bit about sort of gifting and why that's important to you in your business?
I wanted to be different, right? I realized that givers gain, and the more that you give, the more you're going to get. And as hokey as it sounds, it's really paid dividends for me. And it started with really small things, right? But this year, for Thanksgiving, I'll just tell you what we did. Next year, whoever's listening, copy it. Just copy it. Okay. We did hundreds of hand-packed boxes, and it was movie night. So I created custom pieces and filled an entire box, one with a large, really nice blanket. Who doesn't love a blanket? We all have blankets, but you wash it once or twice, they get dingy, right?
Yep.
I went and bought the nicest blankets that we could afford for the box budget. Then we also filled it with a homemade cookie mix so that people could cook in their homes, right? Along with a spatula and a hot pad. And it was one of these things where we're all staying at home more and more. So we did hundreds of boxes, and we filled up an entire FedEx truck and just shipped them to past clients, referral partners. and people in our community just to put joy on their faces. And yeah, we spent money on it, but each and every year it comes back to us.
It's funny. It's funny because I was lucky enough to be on the list, and I got the same package from Joel, and boy, I really don't get many gifts outside of friends and family. I really get none other than I think from you, and it really was a great gift because all of those things are usable. And you're right, like we are able to create a movie night out of it, or just a night alone, or romantic night. And I think it's funny too, because they're all things that are usable, and especially the blankets is such a great gift. But I was talking to an agent on my show not too long ago, and he said when he would first start it out and he had no money or very little money to spend to give back to his clients, what he did. And so, of course, you can put together these amazing gifts like what Joel does. What this guy did is he just bought one box of Girl Scout cookies for each one of his clients, and he hand delivered it. $4 or whatever it is, $5 maybe a box, which, you're supporting the Girl Scouts, which is a good thing. And, you show up with a box. Who doesn't like a box of Girl Scout cookies? So if you're listening and thinking, well, geez, I have a lot of people in my database, but maybe I don't have as much income to build some, create something really, extravagant. It's like Girl Scout cookies are a perfectly wonderful gift too. And, that's just as valid. And so, so whatever your economic situation is, I think, doing something for your client. And if you can't afford that, giving somebody a call and saying, I'm thinking about you, I hope you have a great holiday, that's a great thing to do too. There's lots of ways you can give. And Joel does it in a lot of different ways. Joel is very generous, and he's very involved in the community as well, especially with charity and just different organizations that he supports. And I think that is, everybody knows that about you here in the local Chicago community. And I think, boy, that is a great thing to be known for. And I know that's not the reason you do it. You do it because you want to, and you feel like that's, you're obligated to support the community. And I think that's a wonderful thing to do, but it's also a nice thing to be known for doing. And the only way anyone's ever going to think that way about you is if you get involved, right?
You got to get involved. And one of the keys is just doing it on off holidays. Everybody gets a birthday gift. So sending out somebody a birthday gift or a $5 Starbucks on their birthday, not special, right? Honestly, I'm telling you now, hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that's not special. Doing it on a day where nobody else is getting anything, right? Nobody sends out Thanksgiving gifts, right? That's unique and different. I do St. Patrick's Day gifts. And I've even gotten in trouble doing Valentine's Day gifts because my gifts are better than the husband's gifts sometimes.
Yeah, don't put me on the Valentine's Day list, because I usually have to scramble for that one. Or I could take your gift and then, repurpose it and claim that it was my own and remove any branding that might be there. But seriously, it is really a nice thing for to receive that unexpected on an off holiday, like obviously Thanksgiving. And it's just whatever the gift that you want to provide to your clients, regardless of the expense, like figure out a way to give back and say thank you. And boy, it just brings a lot of holiday cheer. There's really no downside except a little hit to your pocketbook, I guess, when you do it. But that just keeps the good vibes flowing, and certainly hopefully would result in more transactions down the road. I would also like to ask you about, you have exploded this, you've exploded basically every year you've been practicing, but the last couple of years have really been outstanding in your production. And I know you've added a lot of team members in the last year or two. Can you talk a little bit about how that works for you and how that's structured?
Well, it's a fallacy, right? So many people look at somebody ahead of them and say, well, he must just have a bunch of loan officers that work for him. There's no way that he's doing all that business. And right. I am. It's literally the staff that I've created supports the brand and the business. Okay. So right now, we're at 17 members on the staff. And the big thing that really made the jump, I was talking to you before the show about this, was bringing in my wonderful wife, Christine. And I know there's a lot of people that have husband and wife teams, but she's literally blown it out of the park in terms of the marketing and growing. Okay. Because I'm a numbers guy. I'm actually kind of shy. You wouldn't notice this, right? But she's the one that makes these connections for me. And I end up working on the actual day-to-day of the business. And what we've done is we've grown from just having 3 people on the Joel Schaub team to a staff of 17 that helps with marketing, gift giving for realtors. Okay. So we partner with agents all across the United States and teach them in detail the things that we talk about here, how to go out and duplicate what we're doing for their database. They get a list of friends, family members, and coworkers and create unique things that are perfect for them. And we help with the costs.
I love that. And I am always surprised at how little of that as a homeowner in Chicago here that I receive from other loan officers. I get none of it, quite honestly. And I'm in a newer building, a brand new building, really. And so maybe we're not on everyone's address list yet, but I don't think there's a whole lot of competition in that space. Like, this is a great time to partner with a loan officer and say, hey, I want to start doing some, whether it's mailers or flyers or brochures or whatever, and being able to really create. And I'm almost wondering if loan officers have just been so busy this last year that they're like, I don't need to do a lot of that right now because I'm so busy. But I know you do a lot of it. You partner with agents and you say, how can we both work together to build your business, the agent, and then of course that ultimately ends up helping your business too. But I don't receive a lot of that. It's funny. You'd think you would with the number of loan officers out there. So the road is not that well traveled, and it's a great opportunity to choose somebody like Joel to build a relationship with and say, hey, it's 2022 almost. What can we do together to really knock this thing out of the park? And a lot of loan officers are very hungry still. Joel obviously is still super engaged. That I just wanted to go back to something very quickly that you had said about, now that you have the staff of 17, it would be not unnatural to think, oh, Joel gets to now wake up at 10 in the morning and he's done by 2. And that is not your life at all. You were working just as hard as you ever have. And that's the secret to your success. It doesn't necessarily get easier or less time, right? It's just, you now have more help so that you can do more in that same time.
We got to be very forward thinking in this business. And if you're a realtor, you get loan officers left and right reaching out to you saying, our rates are so low, use us, right? What are they doing for you, right? So take some of these people, and I know I'm going to get flack in the lending community for saying this, but if you're a realtor right now, reach back out to these agents these mortgage agents that are reaching out to you, asking you for business and saying, what are you going to do for me, right? Good loan officers will, through RESPA compliant ways, give funds up to 50% for marketing, events, and giving. Okay. And partner with somebody that you like. Okay. That's going to actually take care of your clients, that has the behind the scenes similar to what we have to actually close transactions in a fast amount of time. Because the secret is most banks out there have the same rates, DJ. Everybody thinks that there might be some secret someplace if they search the dark web to find this lowest interest rate. It's not the case. Go with somebody that you know, like, and trust, okay? And work with them and see, if you're an agent, which loan officers actually want to help you grow your business, okay? And that's what's the focus right now. Going into 2022, there's going to be a lot of lenders, as rates do start to go up, that are just going to be calling, and we're way ahead of the game on all of that. This is year round for us, our reaching out. We don't reach out just when times get slow. Yes, everybody is busy, but every single week we're scheduling appointments, and you just wait. When rates do go up, there's going to be a lot of people leaving the business because they didn't do the planning. So if you're on this call here today, or you're listening or watching, I know we've reviewed some of this before, but it's another action step to take steps forward to just do gift giving, create your database, and start giving back.
Yeah, and start talking to lenders. If you're one of our listeners who things are slowing down, it's the end of the year. You got clients that are not as present because they're dealing with holiday stuff. Great time to start talking to lenders. Lenders are probably slightly less busy as well, or the loan officers, probably winding down a bit. Except for Joel, which is still, you're cranking it out just like you always do. But there's a lot of loan officers that are probably have a little bit more time right now. And if you, wanted to partner with somebody in your local community, reach out to 3 or 4 of them and say, hey, I want to talk. Here's what I want to do next year. Can you help me? What can you do? And of course, if anyone out there does not have a great relationship with a loan officer, we would encourage you to reach out to Joel. Joel is an amazing partner. I know of many agents from many firms who Joel works with here in the Chicagoland area. But Guaranteed Rate is licensed, of course, in all 50 states. They have incredible agents, incredible loan officers. And but Joel, if somebody did want to reach out to you specifically to talk about, helping them with their 2022, or even just general questions, or maybe you could help point them in the right direction, what's the best way they should reach out to you?
Invariably, after these podcasts, I get north of a dozen phone calls or emails, somebody just saying, I really was inspired by what you said here. Do you have a few minutes? And I actually take the time to answer the phone, and I do reply to emails personally. So test me. Okay. Joel, Joel @rate.com. It's the short email for Guaranteed Rate. And then 773-654-2049. And it would be one of the things where if you are an agent and you are spending on something, we're happy to contribute. We really want to partner with agents that are investing in themselves, okay? And on the higher end, I know not everyone could be at this level, but if you are an agent that's spending over $10,000 a year on something that you are doing for marketing and advertising, reach out to me. I absolutely have ways in 2022 that you could get defrayed costs on those types of things in real RESPA compliant ways. So let's have a conversation.
And, we're starting to see, there was some news earlier this week for an online lending institution that had to do a massive number of layoffs. And I really think if anyone, is paying attention to those sort of news, that is a great reason to have a conversation with your clients about lenders and why you have that you would, I don't want to use the word steer, but that you would suggest to your clients, I've got a great relationship with someone. I would like you to talk to them, because some of these online mortgage lending institutions, which doesn't really have the ability to have a personal one-on-one interaction between the client and the loan officer, some of them just are starting to crumble a bit, I think. And, these relationships, these one-to-one relationships are just so critical. And like you said, rates are not that important because everyone's really got the same rates, but the relationship is, because I know that if I refer someone to Joel, it's going to get closed. I don't have to think about that. And that is a real nice thing to be able to say to a client is, let's try my person. And so good time to develop those relationships. And again, you're a fiduciary to your clients, not Joel. Of course, I'm talking directly to our audience. You are a fiduciary. You have a financial obligation to give them good advice. And, building a relationship with a loan officer in 2022, if you don't have one, is a good opportunity to really be able to provide more value to your customers and say, oh no, don't, not that you shouldn't go here, but here is somebody else that we really want you to talk to. And the level of experience is just different. I know when I was recently purchasing a home, and I actually went with Joel, of course, and I tried a couple of these online things just to sort of see what would happen. I was curious the experience I would get. And it was very poor. And immediately, I wasn't really going to go with him anyway, but I was shocked at the level, the really difference. Whereas Joel got on the phone with me, had a great conversation that was quite lengthy about, I want to educate you on the process so you know what you're doing. And none of the other places they didn't even call me back really, which was surprising. So this is a great opportunity to build these relationships with really good loan officers like Joel, and really, help get your clients the help they need so that they're not stressed about this sometimes largest financial decision that they may ever make.
I'm glad that you said that, because it's really true. It's about having that relationship. And if you're a realtor, it doesn't have to be me. Go back to the lenders that you absolutely know and see if they're open to helping you on any of those types of things, because good lenders absolutely would welcome that phone call. Why wouldn't they? You're referring them transactions, and you want to make sure that you're working with somebody who has a team behind them. the online lenders, yeah, they might somehow be a little bit cheaper on the surface. It looks to be that way. It's hard to get offers accepted when you're working with somebody like that. So there's some pros and cons to everything. Find out what's best for you, but know, coming right from the horse's mouth here, that loan officers that are successful want to partner with you and spend money. So don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah. It's a great opportunity here for the end of the year for our listeners. And of course, reach out to Joel if you would like to see what he could do with you. He would love to have that conversation with you. And Joel, we wish you a happy December holiday season, as well as the happy new year that is coming up. And excited to have you back again for another year here on the show. And of course, as always, on behalf of the audience, we thank you for your time. You're always have great wisdom, and it is exactly the same steps you do in your own business. So it isn't even unique specifically to real estate. It obviously applies to a lot of different occupations, and you're doing the same thing that you're telling our audience to do. So walking the talk is so rare these days, and it's wonderful to have somebody on the show who really does that. So thank you. And then, of course, on behalf of Joel and myself, we want to thank the audience. You know, you guys have been with us, some of you since the very beginning, which was 4 or 5 years ago, and we appreciate it. We're, I don't know, 300 and maybe 30 episodes in now, and so we are grateful. Wouldn't be able to keep making these without the support from our listeners and our viewers. So please help us continue to grow. Just tell one friend, think of one other agent that could benefit from hearing this great conversation with Joel, and send them a link to our website, which is keepingitrealpod.com. We have links to all the different podcast apps on there, or just have them pull up a podcast app, search for Keeping It Real, hit the subscribe button. And also, please leave us a review if you're whatever app you might be using to listen to our show, whether it's Apple Podcasts or Google Play or Spotify or wherever. Leave us a review. Let us know what you think of the show. It helps us get more visibility, and also lets us know what we're doing right and how we can also improve. So please also do that. Joel, thank you once again. Amazing year you've had, and also you have never missed one of our shows. That's even more impressive with I know how busy you are. So thank you on behalf of all of us at the show. And we will see everybody. We'll see Joel in 2022, and we'll see everyone else on the next episode. So thanks, Joel.
Thank you, DJ.